Hello everyone. We're reading from Master of Self-Realization, The Ultimate Understanding, Shri Sadguru, Siddharameshwar Maharaj. Chapter 2 still, I believe. Page 31. The third body, the causal body. Suppose we lose the concept of possession for the gross body, as well as the subtle body, and admit to the fact that the bundle belongs to a stranger. Still we must find the answer to the question, who am I? Or where am I? Let us now go over the definition of the causal body. What is the causal body? As soon as we step in here, there is pitch darkness everywhere. It is possible that this dark ignorance is the place of residence for this I. It surely seems that this is main headquarters. Ignorance seems to be the main property or quality that belongs to him. There is certainly some hope of finding the elusive I here. Let us see. Here we move about as if blindfolded, searching for it, and the I is not to be found anywhere in the causal body. Here the I seems to have even given up his sense of mine. There seems nothing can be called mine in this place. Everything seems to be absolutely quiet. That I who loudly proclaims I so arrogantly in the gross and subtle bodies, seems to be totally silent here. The I seems to be playing hide and seek so that he does not get caught by the one who searches for it. In the causal body, the I seems to have dug itself into a trench of darkness so that the one making the search might fall in, being forced to end his search. Dear aspirants, do not be concerned. The Sadguru is standing behind you as well as in front of you, and he will take you safely across this trench of darkness. Many scholars and learned persons have turned their backs at this point and abandoned their search, failing to have faith in the guidance of the Sadguru. For you, however, there is no reason to abandon your search like them. You have a guide who is very capable master, a Samartha Sadguru. Samartha means the powerful one, who knows his own significance in the highest sense. After stabilizing in this darkness of the causal body, and firmly planting one's feet therein for some period of time, a voice is softly heard that says, I am the witness of this ignorance. With this, there arises some courage, offering the hope of catching the thief called I. With the recognition of this voice who says, it is the witness of the ignorance, there also comes the thought, this thief is here somewhere. He may be near, or a little further ahead, but he is witnessing the ignorance from somewhere nearby. Here the searching takes the form of watching persistently. How this is done will be discussed in the next chapter. The witnessing that is going on is happening from beyond the emptiness of the causal body. From the position in the great causal body, Mahakarana body, or Turiya state, when this is understood, the I is quickly overjoyed in finding himself. Who can describe that joy? In that joy, the I cries out, I am Brahman, I am self-knowledge. The fourth body, the great causal body, Turiya. The one who says I is really the all-witnessing Brahman. It is he who is of the nature of knowledge, the sense of I am. When this certainty is established, there arises wave after wave of bliss. Afterwards, when this bliss ebbs away, look at the miracle that happens. After inquiry and deep thought, vichara, one arrives at the recognition that I am not even of the nature of knowledge, for just as I am covered with ignorance, in the same way I am covered with knowledge. I was not originally having any ignorance or knowledge. Ignorance and knowledge were born out of me, and were mistakenly taken to be me. With the aid of such deep thought, it can be seen that the arising of both ignorance and knowledge within me points to me as their creator. Therefore, knowledge is my child, and I am its father, and as its father, I am prior to, and different from, the knowledge. Brahman. When this sequence of deep descriptive thought dawns within, the sense that I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasi, that is the self-knowledge in the great causal body, or Turiya state, also starts ebbing away, only to finally be fully eradicated. Then I am absolutely naked, without any covering whatsoever. Arriving here in this nakedness, it cannot be described as to who or what this I is. If you want a description of the I who is found here, you may utter any word found in any dictionary, but that is not I. This I here can only be expressed as not this, not this. It is the one who throws light on anything called this. You may utter words and sentences to try to describe it, but those are not it. Whatever meanings come forth, you take those to be the description of I, but those are not it. If you do not understand what it is being told now, you must leave off the words and concepts and merge in deep silence and see who I am. Chapter 3. Investigation of the four bodies in detail, a methodical approach to explanation. So far, during the search for the I, we turned the four bodies inside out and could not find a trace of it. It is true that the I disappeared without words beyond the four bodies, where even the ideas of I and you do not exist. However, it will not do to just keep quiet and mistake this for deep silence. In the exposition thus far, the gross, the subtle, the causal, and the great causal bodies have been superficially described. It is necessary to examine in detail all aspects of the four bodies. Unless these are fully understood correctly, and this understanding is made part of one's nature, an aspirant will not be able to arrive at this deep silence, which is reality. We will therefore examine in detail what the aspects of the four bodies are. It is necessary to understand that these four bodies are the four steps that one must ascend in order to proceed on the fifth rung of deep silence, which is Nishabda, where the word becomes silent. Going step by step, one can surely reach the end of the journey. However, if some steps are missed, and one puts one foot on the next step prematurely, there is a likelihood of losing one's balance and falling back. Therefore, it is only when one body is fully understood that the aspirant should continue on to the next body, without using this methodical approach. If one starts stepping up the steps too hastily, there will be confusion. In this confusion, true understanding will not be gained, and the aspirant will likely misunderstand the subtle differences between deep sleep and samadhi, as well as mistake ignorance for knowledge. By way of comparison, consider the differences between a toy top that is still when it is not moving and when it appears to be still due to intense speed, or the difference between total darkness and the blackout that is caused by intense light. Although these things appear similar from a casual glance or superficial perspective, there is a vast difference between the two states, and their usefulness or capacity is also different. If one works methodically, step by step, to gain understanding, there will be no confusion as to the subtle differences that are being indicated. Here, it is prudent to bring to the attention of the reader the method of exposition of a subject that is provided in the ancient scriptures. This will convince the aspirant that there is no basis for any doubt to arise regarding any apparent contradictions in the method adopted for the exposition of some particular point in the scriptures. Therefore, we must first describe the method of expounding the teaching that has been adopted by the ancient scriptures. This is often referred to as the primary premise presented in the Vedas. When a subject is to be explained to an aspirant, there is first a description of the subject matter showing its great importance. It is then explained that a great reward will follow if the subject matter is correctly understood. Once the aspirant understands the subject completely, before moving on and explaining the next subject, the instructor, using the scriptural method, is to first impress upon the aspirant the uselessness of the subject that has already been understood. Only after that can the importance of the subject be taught next be impressed upon him. The reason for this method is that there is no inclination for one to strive to understand a subject unless its importance is first brought out, with a promise of some reward as a motivation. Next, the uselessness of the subject matter just learned is brought home to the aspirant so that the subject is automatically renounced, and the aspirant becomes eager to understand what is to be presented as the next topic. The Mother Shruti, the Vedas, takes into consideration the psychological background of an aspirant, and then inspires him to work for food, first telling him that the food is Brahman. She gives him time to fondle the gross body, telling him that the gross body is Brahman. Then it is explained that all experience of joy that come to the gross body are actually enjoyed by the subtle body. The gross body is shown to be merely a corpse, and is told how the corpse could in no way enjoy anything if it were not for the subtle body. Thus, uselessness of the gross body is demonstrated. Next, the mind, intellect, senses, and the sheath that make up the pranas, vital breaths, are described, and the subtle body is said to be Brahman. It is shown to be bigger or more expansive than the gross body. In this way, the Vedas give importance to the subtle body. After that comes a description of the causal body, which is still and even more expansive than the subtle body. It swallows the subtle body. The causal body is then proclaimed to be Brahman, and the advice is given to the aspirant that you yourself have become the expansive causal body. However, since the causal body is considered to be ignorance and in total darkness, the final claim of it being the self cannot really be made here. Accordingly, the aspirant is therefore compelled to investigate further into the great causal body. This great causal body is still more expansive, and it is from here that the voice saying, "I am the witness," emanates. Upon arriving here, the great causal body, or Turiya state, is investigated and examined thoroughly. In this way, the Mother Vedas dismiss each body after having asserted that it was Brahman. When she is finally confronted with the problem of explaining the changeless, attributeless Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, she claims an inability to describe it, and only keeps repeating the sentence, "Not this, not this. That which is not ignorance, and that which is not knowledge, is Brahman. And that which you call Brahman is not Brahman." In such a negative way, Mother Shruti describes Brahman as that which is beyond all of the four bodies. The principle of what has just been described is as follows. When it's said that one body is bigger than the previous body, it does not mean that it is higher in relation to it, etc. In a comparison of needles, for example, the needle used for stitching jute bags is bigger than the one used for cotton, but it is not bigger than the iron rod that is used for digging. This indicates the qualities like bigger and smaller are not inherent in a thing, but are imposed upon it by relating it to or comparing it with some other thing. The same rule applies here. After listing in sequence first food as Brahman, then gross body as Brahman, then subtle body as Brahman, then the causal, and finally the great causal body as Brahman, and in each case the latter being greater than the former. The intention is to give the instruction and demonstrate the principle that out of all these, ultimately none can be said to be Brahman, although it is shown that in each case that the latter state is relatively higher or more expansive than the previous one. It is still not Brahman, and moreover, this para-Brahman is absolutely unique and beyond all of these four bodies. While utilizing the above-mentioned method of explaining a point, It is necessary to understand clearly just what it is that is being described as Brahman. Why is it that it should be described in this way? How far can one go to describe it as being with some particular qualities? Moreover, why is it that what was once called Brahman is then negated as not being Brahman in the same breath? It is important to understand this correctly. For example, in giving instruction on how to cook rice to a person who is not a proper cook, the person is told to first light a fire under the utensil in which the rice is being cooked. After some time, another instruction is given to the same person to put the fire out now. It is natural that the person may wander about the contradictory instructions. His teacher explains to him, "Dear one, it is necessary to keep a fire under the utensil until the rice is cooked, but later the fire has to be put out. Otherwise, we would get coals instead of rice." This is the reason why any method to be practiced is necessary only until its goal is achieved. Otherwise, it will only bring on exhaustion and nothing further beneficial will be achieved. Thus, when the subtle body being called as Brahman is thoroughly examined and understood, the merit of calling the subtle body as Brahman loses its value, and it becomes necessary to move on and continue to search for I by examining the next thing. This demonstrates that sometimes when we offer a price for something or place some value on it in order to achieve some particular results, that value that we have placed on it may not necessarily be the real value of that thing. For example, some occasion may arise in one's life where you might have to address even a donkey as uncle. In this example, the honor that is given to the donkey is due to some consequence you must endure for some action done. In the same way, some great calamity that someone may be facing is because he has forgotten his real nature. It is therefore necessary to become liberated from the calamity or obstruction, which is like being caught in the jaws of a crocodile. If you free yourself from the crocodile by flattery, saying that her back is very smooth, does it really mean that her back is as soft as a feather mattress? This question should be asked of the man who gets released from the crocodile's jaws, to rid oneself of the crocodile-like grip of the four bodies. They are called Brahman for some short period of time, taking into account that this is the method of explanation that will be used. We will now turn our attention to the actual explanation and description of the four bodies. The investigation commences. The nature of the gross body is quite well known. It is a mass of flesh and blood that can be touched with the hand, and all are quite familiar with it. Not only that, but everyone uses it fully. The gross body is I, and therefore all the passions and desires that happen to the body are mine. Accordingly, the dark or fair complexion of the body and the stages of childhood, youth, old age belong to me. The relationship of the body to caste, religion, house, land, wealth, and all mine. This is a lesson that every human being has learned through many births, and he has learned it very well. In fact, it is so well learned that even while dreaming, someone will tell you that he is so-and-so. It is therefore not necessary to teach anyone this lesson that has been repeatedly learned over and over, and has been so firmly implanted in one's psyche. The feet of all human beings are resting steadily on the step of this gross body. The state of this gross body is that of wakefulness, and in this body there is partial forgetfulness and partial remembrance. The quality of worldly action, or rajoguna, is predominant in the gross body. This basic explanation is enough for one to understand the gross body. We will now turn to the next step, that of the subtle body. As has been previously stated, the subtle body is a committee. It is a collection of the senses, the pranas, the mind, the intellect, seated on the inner mind, Hata Karana, which collectively creates a type of mental world or dream world that is seen when the visible world becomes invisible when closing the eyes. After some thought and investigation, it can be noticed that the subtle body is really a very peculiar thing. Upon examination, it can be seen that all of the movements of the gross body are according to the dictates of this subtle body. The assertion of a concept, such as something is like this, is called sankalpa and a doubt. Or the notion that something is not like this is called vikalpa. This subtle body is such that it is always presenting this perverse type of knowledge of contradictory thoughts, and its state is that of dreaming. Continuous memory is the indicative quality of the subtle body, and the quality of awareness, or sattvaguna, is the quality that is predominant here. After being introduced to the subtle body in this way, the aspirant becomes the body. When one foot is planted firmly on the next step, the other foot is lifted from the previous step and placed beside the first foot. In this way, one leaves the first step completely. When one crosses the boundaries of a village and puts his foot within the limits of the next village, the first village is left behind, and one becomes a traveler to the next village. Similarly, in order to understand properly the step of the subtle body described above, when the aspirant plants his foot firmly on this step, he has to lift his foot from the gross body in order to bring this understanding into practice. When the gross body is left behind, the aspirant then has to sever all connections with it. However, this work is not so easily done, as it seems that for crossing over these steps, every human being has only two legs. One leg is the leg of learning, and the other is the leg of putting into practice what one has learned. Taking both feet away from the step of the gross body and planting them on the step of the subtle body means that one has to transcend the physical body. When one leaves behind the sense of pride and possession of the gross body and takes up the pride and possession in the subtle body, he has to say, I am only the subtle body. Only when this is experienced does it mean that the gross body has been renounced and the subtle body is now accepted as I. When the aspirant comes to the second step, then the lower step is left behind, and one now accepts that the gross body is not I. The I has no relationship with the gross body. The changes that happen to the gross body and its qualities, such as having a dark or fair complexion, are no longer considered as mine. No qualities of the gross body belong to me, as I am the only subtle body. This means that the qualities of the subtle body, such as senses, the pranas, the mind, the intellect, the sense of I am, etc., are not endowed with gross physical qualities such as fat or thin, dark or fair, young or old, etc. It is clear that I am the only mind and the intellect, etc., with subtle qualities. If the aspirant studies this diligently, then both feet become firmly planted on the second step, and he loses the sense of pride in the identification with the gross body. He becomes indifferent to all qualities and conditions of the gross body. The third step is above and beyond the subtle body and is the causal body, or ignorance. The causal body is a state of pure forgetfulness, where the quality of ignorance, or tamaguna, is predominant. Here in the causal body, there was no thought as to the well-being of or any relationship with either the gross or subtle bodies. The causal body means that there is no knowledge of anything. It is like the state of a deep sleep, but it is not deep sleep. The causal body is difficult to understand. However, it is very important to understand this state. Those who proclaim to understand the principle of zero, nothingness, void, came to this state and turned back, saying that there was nothing ahead. All right, we are going to stop there. Page 40. Yes. And I'll read more tomorrow. That was Master of Self-Realization and Ultimate Understanding, Shri Sadguru Siddharameshwar Maharaj. Yeah. Tomorrow I'll be on again. Peace.